We had closed session for an hour and didn't talk about anything that we can report. This is September 17th. And we are the Livermore School Board, and you have elected us to take on the responsibility of educating the young people who live in Livermore, here in the east end of Alameda County. Today we have 12,522 students enrolled in our schools, and 98.2% of them came and sat in their seats today. That's an awesome number to me. You know, we talk about absence problems. 98.2% is a high number for students who came. But Smith School had the highest. It was 98.5%, so 0.3% more for Smith School. They won the prize, if there's a prize. Dr. Dunlop is away on travel tonight, so I'm the clerk acting as president, serving as president. Where did my piece of paper go? The next order of business is the flag salute. We have some students from East Avenue, Annabelle Stein and Andrew Stein to lead us, and Natasha from Granada.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we going to shake hands? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're here to conduct the business of the district in public, and we welcome you to watch and participate as we deliberate. If you'd like to comment on an item for decision, please complete a blue card outside, and I'll call on you at the appropriate time. If you have general comments on topics that are within our area of responsibility, please use the tan card. The cards are optional, but please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Our meeting is broadcast on channel, is it 28? On Wednesday, tomorrow evening, and again Saturday morning if you just don't have enough tonight. The next order is, are there changes to the agenda? Mrs. Bowers, you said there was one.
Thank you, Madam President. We do have one change tonight to the agenda. Item Roman numeral 11B, approval of employment of personnel under returning classified number 21. The job title instructional aide should read instructional technician. A revised copy of the agenda page is at everyone's desktop.
Thank you. The next is recognitions.
Oh, and also substituting for Margaret Gaylord, we have our secretary to the superintendent, Ms. Donna Geyer. Welcome back. And for recognitions, tonight is a very special recognition. This is a very important career milestone. We have quite a few teachers who are reaching this important career milestone, which is their advancement to permanent status in the district. So I'd like to ask Mrs. Yolanda Holmes to come up and help do the honors of the special recognition. We have quite a few administrators and other staff members here also to celebrate and honor the teachers who we are recognizing this evening. A few of our administrators were also invited simultaneously to a community event tonight, a Leadership Livermore event. And so if they are not here, they are with us in spirit because they are also very proud of this accomplishment.
Thank you, Superintendent Bowers. To President White, trustee board members, to everyone here this evening, it brings me great honor to present 35 names of certificated staff who have reached, as our superintendent has said, a career milestone within the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. Under the California Education Code, this means that they have completed at least 2 successful years in their assignments under the certificated credential in which they hold. Tonight, each principal will read the names of their honorees, and following which we would ask the board to pause for a reception of our honorees and their family and friends. Tonight also in the recognition we have Debbie Van Buskirk and Rebecca Polychronis, also with the Human Resources Department. So tonight it brings me great honor to ask to come to the podium first Altamont Creek's principal, P.J. Daly.
Good evening. Very excited to be here. This has been an exciting week for me personally, as I have a new baby boy at home who's now 4 days old, who was born on Friday.
We asked him to lead the pledge, but he's not ready yet.
Not yet. Yeah, someday, absolutely. I'll do my best not to nod off here as I'm a little sleep deprived. But this night's certainly not about me. It's not about him. It's about our staff members today. So I'd like to have the following individuals come forward if they are in attendance. Cassia Clinton, Mary Druin, and Lisa Trumpus. Cassie is team teaching 5th grade this year, doing an excellent job. We're hoping to include her in more roles, especially with the Common Core coming up and the technology background she has. She's an absolute asset to the staff. Mary Druin is here as well, who is also sporting her newborn baby, who I believe was in the spring last year. So we're happy that she's in attendance. She's working our STC program, 4th and 5th grade. And Lisa Trumpus is not in attendance tonight, but she's our full inclusion specialist, whose last name recently changed. It was Balsama, you might have seen that, but she was married over the summer, who does an excellent job, again, with our full inclusion program, and is running around the entire campus. She took a day off to do her honeymoon here, and she had a sub who said she should have had better running shoes on. She'd seen what Lisa had done before, but had no idea how much she covered campus in one day. So all three are fantastic. We're so excited to have them as full-time members at Altamont Creek. Thank you.
No kisses the baby. For politicians, we don't have to kiss the baby. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Cute. And so, I'll smile. Congrats.
Our next school, Christensen Middle School, Principal Pat Avella.
Thank you, Mrs. Holmes, and board members and superintendent. I am very proud tonight to introduce to you 3 of the teachers that are now going to be with us for a long, long time, it is my hope. Kate Medina, Amanda Ramirez, and John Wieland. We have 2 special ed teachers and a math teacher, which are certainly areas that we need to fill with good people, and I couldn't be prouder to bring these people forward. So if I could have them come on up front. Kate, John, and Amanda. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Our next principal this evening, Granada High School, Philomeno Rambo.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure as well this evening to invite up amazing teachers Amina Alamoudi, Chrissy Bowie, Lauren Haberman, Counselor Tyler Johnston, Megan Mabry, Aaron Marine, David Moore, and Stephanie Tam. Amina Alamoudi is Special Education Department teacher and chair, leader of our co-teacher program. Chrissy Bowie, there she is, we're doing alphabetical. Also excellent special education teacher. She leads our moderate to severe transition program. Lauren Haberman, resource special ed co-teacher as well. Tyler Johnston, counselor extraordinaire. Megan isn't here this evening, she teaches French. Erin Marine, English teacher, extraordinaire of course as well. David Moore, math teacher who's also part of the co-teaching program, and Stephanie Tam, special education SDC, but also leader in the co-teaching program in the SDC department. They are phenomenal, and I'm very honored to be able to present them to you this evening.
We didn't get the memo.
Our next school coming forward this evening, Jackson Avenue Elementary School, Sherry Johnston, principal.
Good evening. Let us join in celebrating with Jackson Avenue School. We have Shalene Carey, who is our 5th grade teacher, Erin Eddy, a 4th grade teacher, Deborah Batondo, our 3rd grade teacher, and Alyssa Lopez, our 1st grade SDC teacher.
Our next school, Rancho Elementary School, Principal Steve Martin, and this employee also is part-time at Jackson Elementary School.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Tina Wheatman, who is doing the primary grade science at Rancho, and I would like to add that she is one of the most organized people I've ever met. Her classroom is amazing. Tina, come on up.
Our next school this evening, Junction K-8. Our principal, Greg Elliott, couldn't be with us this evening. We have Dana Taylor, vice principal of Junction K-8.
Good evening. At Junction Avenue, we're all about community. We love our school and we have a great community. And the two people we're going to honor tonight are the heart of our school. They're Erin Houghton, 4th grade teacher, English only, and Michelle Perry, 6th grade teacher, core. I'm so lucky we have these guys right here.
Our next school, Maryland Avenue Elementary School, Principal Kim Ferran.
Good evening. I have one teacher to announce tonight. It's Taylor Parker. He is a third grade teacher, but he's working only part-time, and today is not one of his days. I thought he was going to make it tonight, but he is a new dad, so he's probably at home with the baby. Unless he's snuck in my
Our next school this evening is Livermore High School, represented by Vice Principal Alex Eckert.
Thank you and good evening. We have two teachers to honor tonight. One is unable to be here. That is Danielle Cunningham, an English teacher, and the second is Heather Lamb. Heather is a math teacher in our department, and last year challenged her a little bit to take on more of a leadership role, and so she sped up that process. She is a math teacher and one of our co-department chairs, and we're lucky to have her leadership. Thank you.
Our next school this evening is Mendenhall Middle School, Principal Susan Sambachetti.
Good evening. I too am very honored to recognize the four teachers who have become tenured. They are Elizabeth Blackwell, who is our resource teacher and now our co-teaching expert, Karen Carpenter, 8th grade core and 8th grade honors core, Charlie McHenry, whom we are grooming to be our intervention specialist, and Anne Franklin, science teacher beyond par. The great thing about all four of these teachers is that they will do whatever it takes to support students. They're strategic and relentless in their goal of making sure every student succeeds. So, congratulations.
Our next school this evening, Mitchell K-8, Principal Laura Lumbo.
Good evening. It is with extreme pleasure that I have the opportunity to recognize two outstanding teachers at Joe Mitchell. Vicki Eby is our resource teacher who teaches our middle school students, and Valerie Talley, who is teaching first grade at Joe Mitchell. These two ladies go above and beyond each and every day. You know, there's not a whole lot that I can say other than they do whatever is necessary to meet the needs of every single one of our students at Joe Mitchell. And I feel so blessed. Our community is blessed to have them. So please join me in recognizing both Valerie Talley and Vicki Eby.
Our next school this evening, Sunset Elementary School, Principal Kuljender Sekhan.
Thank you. Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Amy Prasad, who teaches first grade at Sunset Elementary. Mrs. Prasad joined our school 3 years ago as our part-time reading specialist. And the moment she started working, and as we know, Sunset has great teachers, we knew immediately she's a fabulous teacher and we have to keep her. And when the opportunity came to keep her as our first grade teacher, we immediately took advantage of that opportunity, and now Mrs. Prasad is permanent in our district, so we have to keep her. So it's my pleasure to have her. So thank you for honoring her today.
Last but not least this evening, we have our Special Education Department recognition, and that will be presented by our Director, Mary Ann Fritz.
Hi, we have Licia McDonald. Is she here? Yeah. And she is one of our school psychologists, full-time. She splits between two schools, Mendenhall and Croce Elementary, and she does a phenomenal job. So we're very fortunate to have her with us and continuing to be with us. So thank you.
This concludes our recognition this evening for the 35 probe to permanent certificated teachers and psychologists for this evening. Thank you.
Yes, we do. We're going to take a short break now to celebrate with cookies and mixing. Ready? We're going to reconvene the meeting here. This is the September 17th meeting of Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. And the next item is student board member reports. Now, I haven't kept track of who goes first. Do you want to choose? Okay, Haley, go first.
Good evening, Superintendent Bowers, President White, and fellow board members. We are now in our 5th week of school at Granada, and we're excited to be continuing the strong school spirit as well as academic and athletic excellence that we entered the school year with. Last week, we extended our ASE program to provide intervention in all math and sciences. The first week we had started the intervention, we were only doing it for geometry, but we've extended it. And we've had a lot of success in our interventions, and there are many students who are also interested in volunteering to aid their peers in various subjects. So it was nice to see students reaching out to give peer support too. This week, we're looking forward to extending the intervention to the English department as well, and we hope to see continued academic improvement in our students. We're also nearing midterms for this trimester, so students have begun preparing for their midterm exams, which will be factored onto their midterm grades that will be sent out on October 2nd, I believe. 2 weeks ago, we held our fall fiesta on a Friday, and the class of 2015 was able to raise funds for their junior prom, and it was a really great event for people to display their school spirit and get dressed up for the theme of the night. So everyone who attended had a really great time. They enjoyed the DJ and the decorations, and it was a lot of fun. We also last week on Thursday had our back to school night. So parents were able to learn about the Common Core standards during Mrs. Rambo's speech and address to the parents. The parents were also able to visit their the students' teachers in classrooms and get an idea of what kind of curriculum and course load they were going to be doing, like dealing with this school year. And also we had spirit items on sale. So people who were unable to purchase them at our Matador days when their parents weren't there and stuff were able to buy them when their parents were there that night. So it's a good way for people to get some ideas out there for school spirit. That's something we're focusing on this year, trying to earn more revenue with school spirit, encourage people to get involved in all sort of school spirit events. Also, all sophomores are very excited to have learned that they're going to have the opportunity to take the PSAT in school. They're happy that it's going to be during an in-school environment as opposed to going on the weekend, so they're glad that also it's free. They're really excited mostly about that part. We've had a lot of success with our clubs so far, and we're only halfway through the trimester. Red Cross is already hosting a blood drive that's upcoming, and they're excited. They've had a lot of volunteers, and it's usually a really good event. We have a great success rate for the amount of volunteers we have and the amount of blood we provide for people in need of transfusions and other sorts of things. So we're excited to see that go off and be the first one of the school year. I think it's the first of 3. Our Interact Club is up and running as well, and we're excited for them to debut their community and global action plan for this year. After they have their Interact, I think it's about a forum or something like that, they choose and debut their plan for how they're going to aid the community and how they're going to aid a global cause. A few years ago, I believe they did stuff for literacy, a literacy program for people abroad. So it's a really great opportunity for them to get perspective as to the issues on the outside world and also to provide aid for those who tend to be less fortunate in their education than we are. So we're excited to hear what that is, and that'll be debuted October 12th. Our Fellowship of Christian Athletes also had their first meeting last Friday, and they always have a great turnout of kids, athletes, Christians alike, and they all are really interested in hearing the inspiring messages. Sometimes we have athletes come in, or pastors give an inspirational speech for the week. All classes, including the teachers, are preparing for our homecoming skits, so we're excited to see the dances that especially the teachers come up with. They're usually a lot of fun, and we're really excited to see our teachers get involved in the school spirit. So there's been a lot of practicing dances, running our lines, building props. Everyone's been really busy with lots of skit practices, but it's been fun. It's been an exciting experience. Our seniors have Clue, our juniors have Candyland, our sophomores have Operation, and our freshmen have Monopoly. And I believe the teachers have Scrabble, so I'm interested to see how they interpret that into a skit. Should be a lot of fun. We're really excited to display our infamous homecoming spirit. Homecoming is one of the things that we do really well at Granada. It's a great event, and everyone from every walk of life, every sort of activity and interest, they all get involved, and we have a lot of fun. And everyone is welcome to attend our carnival, which will be October 10th, I believe, Thursday, October 10th, and it's a lot of fun to get to watch our skits. Each class will perform them, and we'll have various booths and games and all sorts of things that will expose you to student life at Granada. And we're hoping to cheer on our teams to victory against Monte Vista in our homecoming game on the 12th. On last Thursday, we hosted a pajama day for child cancer awareness because our cause this year is to donate to the Jimmy V Foundation. because we really, in leadership, we're really interested in having a global cause. And we have like 3 communities. We have school-wide outreach, we have domestic, and we have international. So our domestic cause this year is to raise money for the Jimmy V Foundation, which goes towards cancer research. So as a part of that, we had a pajama day, which was great for school spirit. A lot of kids dressed up, but it was also to raise awareness for a good cause. You want people to realize that there is a lot of ill children out there, and that our donations and our efforts can help raise awareness and also fund research. We've also lost a few students to cancer, including Corinne Krogan, and Team KC is going to be hosting a swimathon to raise money for their charity, which will be hosted October 6th at Granada, and all of the money goes to providing resources for families with children battling cancer. So whether it be gas cards to help them pay for going back and forth to the hospital, or meals so that they're not rushing to cook a meal after being at the hospital all day, or just anything along those lines. It's a really great cause to help families struggling with all of the horrible things that come along with having a child ill with cancer. So hoping to keep them positive and help them through that tough journey. Our sports continue to do well and have the support of all of our fellow classmates. We've had great turnouts at all of our events. The girls water polo won first place in the Sierra Shootout tournaments this weekend, so we're excited to see them perform well. And football is also 2-1 on a 2-game, has a 2-1 record. It is on a 2-game winning streak, so we're excited about that. We're hoping to see them continue this winning streak in our regular season, which I believe starts next week. And girls golf had a tournament in Antioch yesterday, which the results I'm not aware of, unfortunately. And girls tennis beat Freedom High School last week in their match. And girls volleyball is playing a match right now against Doherty Valley, so good luck to them. So we're off to a busy but productive school year, and that's all for now.
Thank you. Ms. Dreher.
Thank you, Superintendent Bowers and fellow board members at Livermore High School. Our sports are starting off really strong, and so are our supporting students. Our Cowboy Nation Center at the stadium or bleachers has been bigger than ever, and parents are actually really happy to see such large crowds and haven't been complaining, so that's good, and we want to keep up, the clean fun. So for last week, freshman and JV football beat Northgate, and the week before that, our varsity team had won against Hayward High 49-0, which was a huge way to start off our football season, and we really hope the spirits stay high. Our girls volleyball beat Arroyo 3-1. Our boys water polo beat Granada 21-4. Our girls water polo has continued to stay undefeated for the preseason, and we're really hoping that stays going because our girls water polo is amazing. And our cross country came into 6th at the Lowell Invitational. So a lot of our clubs are also starting up, and it's really exciting because we're seeing a lot of them returning and being really active about their membership. So our LHS DECA is starting up, and it was brought back last year, and we're hoping that it can come back even stronger. FFA is also starting and recruiting members. Ignited Youth is starting up again, and they will all be meeting this week. One of my personal favorites, Shooting Stars, has also started again, and we now have 14 members, which is the largest number yet. So we're really hoping to show what we got this year. And their first performance will be at the Granada vs. Livermore football game, so that is something to watch for. They are really amazing, and I am their coach, and I love working with them. They're my favorite students in the world. So our LHS Boosters has come out with their new blanket that represents all the LHS sports we have on campus. I have a blanket if anyone wants to see it in person, but that's a picture, and Shooting Stars is represented on this blanket this year, so very exciting. And they are $45. So for school news, a group of students that are in field biology and AP Environmental helped participate at the Adopt a Creek cleanup. I also participated in this, and this was at Robertson Park. So the LHS students got to catch species of the creek, and the species they would find would indicate the health of the creek. So the species would indicate there's pollution or if there is none. And I would have to say I'm not very bug friendly, but I was actually really excited because I caught a fish with a net. Senior picnic was a success yesterday. I also got to attend. The event changed to actually being at Robertson Park when it was originally going to be on campus. But students really enjoyed being able to do a lot of activities or just hang out with their fellow class members. There were henna tattoos, cotton candy, Casa Rosco, an obstacle course, and a slide that you had to climb to the top of, which was extremely difficult, or be out for the whole entire day. Our sophomores are extremely eager to take their PSATs. That is being free this year, and the juniors who also have the opportunity to take it at a lower cost. There will be a parent and student informational meeting on September 26th about an abroad trip to Panama and Costa Rica, which is really exciting because I think a lot of students would enjoy the opportunity to travel with a lot of our staff that has a lot of knowledge about countries abroad. LHS Reads has started their new book for this year. It's called Whirligig, and it's about a student who dies in a car crash due to texting. And we're hoping to make a really big theme about it by having, an assembly to bring it to students' awareness, activities like driving in a golf cart while having to text your schedule to a police officer, extremely difficult, while they throw basketballs at you. And also, we have the every 15 minutes this year, so also, just distracted driving while possibly drinking. There will also be a Pirates of Emerson haunt in Pleasanton that you can purchase a ticket through our Grad Night at LHS, and it'll be a $25 value ticket for the 8 attractions, but will be $20. And our LHS students are signing up for the LVEF Block of Education, which we're hoping to win again for the most members. So a lot of students are craving in to sign up and, win that $500 again. And that is currently what's going on at Livermore High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next order is employee associations. Are there employee associations in the audience who would like to speak? Of course, Mrs. Fields.
Good evening, Mrs. White, Superintendent Bowers, or Acting President, Mrs. White, members of the community and board. I'm very excited to see our 35 certificated staff elevated to permanent status. It is quite an accomplishment, and it means that they have successfully completed 2 years of careful scrutiny in a very rigorous evaluation process. And this ensures that we keep only the best and the most promising teachers and support staff for our schools. Last week, I was privileged to attend a press conference celebrating Maryland Avenue's successful rise under the auspices of QEIA, or the Quality Education Investment Act. QEIA has and is providing additional funding for the site to keep class sizes lower, to provide additional training and professional development, and it allows the staff the flexibility to be creative both in staffing and scheduling. They have been a model among the QEIA schools statewide. Their site contact, Noah King, has been asked and has presented several times in the last 3 years to other QEIA schools. Not only are they trying to learn from what Maryland Avenue is doing right, but they are celebrating the fact that they are doing it right. Not only have they met and exceeded every single QEIA required measurement of growth, their API scores for this year hit 833 points. The state is hoping that all public schools hit 800. Maryland hit 833. And this is up from an API score of 651 in 2006. So QEIA and the success of Maryland Avenue's staff, community, and students prove that smaller classes teamed with increased collaboration time, teacher-directed professional development, and a more involved parent community really does work wonders. I am so exceptionally proud of their ongoing improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. The next order is communications from the public. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak about a topic not on the agenda? And there's no correspondence listed. So we can move on to the first information discussion item. Mrs. Bowers, would you introduce this item?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam President. This is an information discussion item, and I will ask our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Cindy Alba, together with representatives from the READY program, to present.
Good evening, President White and trustees, Superintendent Bowers. This evening, we do have a presentation from Mr. Manuel Perry, who will be sharing with us about the READY program that is taking place at Junction K-8 School. And I know he's going to go into all the details of the program, but this is a program that truly makes a difference for our students, and we are so appreciative of these community members who come in and work directly with our students to help them academically and be positive role models for them. So I'm going to let you go ahead and present.
Thank you very much. My name is Manuel. In fact, it's Dr. Manuel Perry, and the kids just love calling me Dr. P when I'm on campus over there. I'm here from Rotary. There are about over 1,200,000 Rotarians around the world, about 1,300 clubs. And the club, we have 2 clubs here in Livermore, the morning and the noon club. There may be even an evening club. But it's one of, at the noon club, we have about 150 members in the noon club. The thing is, what I want to do is talk about a program that we started with you when I came here. I think it was like 3 years ago, to talk about the possibility of doing something at a school. And then a year later came to give you an update on that program. Well, tonight I'm here to give you an update on the update of the program. And it's the program called READY. READY stands for Rotarians Enriching and Directing Youth. The program design, let's see if I get this one, there we go. I want to talk about the READY program in 4 ways. To talk about the program design, the program progress, the program plans, as well as the people who are involved in the READY program. When it comes to design of the program is unique to our Rotary Club. It is also unique in the way of our relationships with the school district. Ours is one of our unique relationship. We're the only program I know of, an entire Rotary organization of over 1,200 Rotary clubs around the world, where there is this relationship directly with the school, with Rotarians going into classroom and doing mentoring. We started the program over 3 years ago with 6th and 7th graders. It was approved and funded by our Rotary board, so we pay for any of the expenses for the Rotary, for the READY program. It is staffed by Rotarians and other people, others being our wives or the Interact Club or the Interwheel, and it's designed to do one thing. Oops. Let's see if I can go back. There we go. It is designed to light a spark for learning. That's the design of the program. And talking about design, READY has 2 major goals. For weekly mentoring sessions to help the students achieve in the classroom, that's one of our major goals. And the other goal is through monthly field trips that we had to expand the knowledge of the kids regarding to the world and the possible career opportunities that they have. READY is specifically targeted program as part of design. It is for low-performing schools. We could easily go to a high-performing schools with the talent that's available for the kids, but it's for a low-performing school, a school with high bilingual, low income, and multicultural student population. That is what, and 3 years ago when we were talking, it was up to you to decide where would we leverage these resources, and you selected Junction K-8 School. And that's the reason we are at that Junction, is because you asked us to be there to provide support. The READY program in the way of activities is to design enriching activities in the way of the monthly field trips to businesses, to laboratories, and to places where people have used their education which is a key component of the program. As you can see from the pictures there, we've taken the kids to the colleges. We've taken them to the golf courses. They've been to the fire department. They've been to the police department. They've been to the airport. They've been out to the big cattle ranches in town. The idea is to get them to explore possibilities of careers and have people entertained of how, in fact, they can leverage their education. The READY program design is also, we meet in the way of directing, the D standing for directing activities, where we make the point that education is key. So every Monday after school, 2:30 to 3:45, we meet with students to mentor them of the students who have been selected by the staff at the school. The mentors ask questions of the students. The mentors help the students with homework if needed. Students work with mentors themselves on one-on-one or in small groups is what we'll end up doing. What has been the progress of the program over time? K-8 school, as you know, continues to score like other schools with similar kinds of demographics. That's demographics of high, low-income students and high percentage of bilingual students. Our goal is to have the students see the importance of education in their future. One of the things that you're well aware of is junction scores vectored up this last year in testing scoring. And the involvement of the students, involvement of other resources, including the Rotarians coming in, we want to continue on that pathway as we continue to go forward. The kids have the potential to reach any score in the way of the kinds of education they're receiving and the talents that they have at the school. The progress for the READY program is the mentoring mix changed for us this over the years. And that is, we have from like 15 to 20 students every Monday as part of mentoring. The younger students have been selected, as the suggestion of the principal there is to start bringing in fifth graders, not just 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, but let's start as early as we can. We're ending up with more girls now are attending the READY program. Most students speak both English and Spanish, and we are asking them to be competent in both and think about a third in the process. Most students are going to return to the READY program next year if they're 7th or 8th graders, as well as the new 5th graders coming in. And we're going to have an increased number of students join just by having the students show up the door when the READY program is meeting on campus and asking the question, how do I get into this program? And if it's not students, it's their parents who are coming to the door asking, how can I get my kid in the program? And Rotarians basically has made the program work. When it comes to progress, the field trips continue to stimulate ideas about careers. Look where students have gone. Alden Lane opened it up for the students to come take a tour. The Bankhead Theater, the Exploratorium in San Francisco, the Livermore Police Department, the library, the rec department, Poppy Ridge Pro put on a clinic for them. Rock climbing on Jobs and Recreation, the fire department, the Benke Cattle Ranch, the Livermore National Laboratory, Las Positas College, the airport, the Academy of Science in San Francisco, the Railroad Museum in Sunol, as well as the Valley Hospital. The READY program mentors involvement has changed, though, over time. Students often meet just with the same mentor each Monday when they come in, one-on-one or in small groups. The emphasis varies from doing homework to discussing how will I end up using what I'm learning in my classroom right now. Now some students mentor other students, as well as us Rotarians on homework assignments, and especially, I don't know the last time you've been asked how do you multiply least common denominators of fractions. It's a test, so we end up being mentored by the students at times. When it comes to progress, what we find out is the students' attendance is tracked by a sign-in sheet and a raffle ticket. And we discovered something that we didn't know would be as much as a motivator as it is. But one of these blue tickets, you're given every time you show up for mentoring. Your ticket goes into the pot. When your ticket goes into the pot at the end of the mentoring session, we draw tickets out of the pot. If you're there, you win. If you're not there and your name is called, you'll hear about it from the other students on campus the next day. So for us, it ends up as being a major motivator of a student wanting to be there. One reason is, and the other one is to end up winning and having that known across the campus. What then are the plans for us as we talk about going forward? That's the issue on the tickets. What's the issue for us as we go forward? Our plans looking to the future of the READY program over at the school is to continue to bring in younger students, those meaning that new group of fifth graders, to also make use of the assessment tools which are at the school so we can monitor using School Loop what students are turning in the homework and what students are not. We need to develop more educational material to support field trips. And so that when students go there, it's not just looking around, but there's some take-home information for them to consider regarding careers. And we need to develop and set up some committees to plan each one of the major sections of the READY program. That's the mentoring section, as well as the field trip, and that's something we've done this year. What are the plans for the future? Well, we plan to set up some small student groups to do hands-on activities, to do team building. And I noticed, just reading the new strategies that we're going to be imposing on schools, and that's the Common Core. The idea is to how do you prepare students to work in teams, and how do you get them ready to make decisions based upon certain reasoning steps that they've gone through? How do they end up presenting material orally? All of that is what we want to have them do as some of the mentoring activities that we will be doing the once-a-month ones. The other thing is to consider the access and the need to assess the need for students to have computers at home. And the idea there is to establish a computer loan bank, for especially some of the kids who cannot afford computers. What about all of us who have the old laptop that sits there because you bought a new one? And what do I now do with it? Well, why not scrub it? Why not then put on utilitarian type of software, and why not loan it to a kid who can't afford to have one? And the thinking there is that to use the old laptops, have it set up and run by the Interact Rotary Clubs at one of the high schools, which would end up doing a great job at doing that. The other thing for the future is recruit more Rotarians and Interact students, especially women, to listen as well as to inspire students. We know the time we meet at 2:45 is not the best time for high school students to come all the way across to Junction School. But a number of the students do that, and others are planning to do it this coming year. And then the other one is to explore field trips in other areas. I'm going to show you pictures of what we've done, but what about auto repair, food preparation, the art field? What about business, communication, as well as what we talk so much about here in the Valley, the wine industry? Those are the kinds of things to explore in the way of looking for the future. I want to talk, the last part is dealing with the issue, the most important part of the READY program, and those are the people who've been involved. Rotarians have participated as mentors on field trips. Where have they gone? Out to the airport, into airplanes at the airport. And the lower picture that you see, which is there, is having the kids talk to a pilot who's on his way of making his second airplane. He has no legs below the knee. And for him, he made the point, don't let the things get in the way of you dreaming of what you want to do. And so the kids saw that and learned a lesson as part of that process. Rotarians in the program are absolutely unbelievable. They and their spouses and Interact kids, as well as the school staff, can demonstrate their care and support, and they make things happen. Either it's a pilot who brought the kids, took them on tour, and showed them how he's making his airplane, or one of the ranchers here in town who had an open house for the kids out at the ranch, at the Banky Ranch, one of the large cattle ranches, to have the kids set up and have ongoing activities while they were there of learning how to lasso and doing other things. Rotarians meet weekly with the students now to emphasize the importance of education. Be they an engineer working with the students on math problems or a computer graphics person, we meet one-on-one with the students, or a retired minister who will meet with students to go over. The computer equipment operator going over mathematics with a student at the school, or an animal psychologist sitting down and talking about biology with some of the students, or an Interact student who's on their way, it's a freshman now at the UC Berkeley, accepted to 6 schools for which she applied, but she found time to come over every Monday since she was a sophomore to work with the kids at the school. The experience, the time, and the knowledge shared with students is absolutely priceless. A veterinarian, you all know who he is, Dr. John Shirley, ex-mayor, ex-city councilman, ex-World War II veteran, will have interesting conversations with the kids on all those topics at different times. What is it the kid wants to talk about that day? Computer graphics person sitting down with the same group of students, or a physicist, retired physicist, who has so many patents you can't believe, but the thing is he finds time every Monday to show up to work with students. And then they're affecting the future as well as passing on the past is the thing. And that is, Kate sits in the back of the room with her group of students, and I can just hear that conversation at times as they talk to her, possibly raising the question, you think I should propose what to the school board is the thing? And her group of kids more than likely will be proposing a 3-day school week, as knowing that crew. And then what are you going to do in retirement? You're looking at, and the response is mentor. You're looking at 2 of the older Rotarians. What am I talking about older? 89 years old and 92. They're there Mondays to end up mentoring the kids and talking about futures, or having the kids ask them questions about that. Now, when we end up talking about who's going to drive the trains and the technology of tomorrow, well, let's first of all start with the old days. Well, we had a tour down in Sonoma, go through the old technology of railroads, go inside railroad cars, and then end up asking where we're going to be in the future. Well, we're going to be levitating trains. We're going to have magnetic trains, high-speed trains. So who's going to drive them? The girls said they will. Is the thing. And then the idea is give them exposure of the trains of the past. Well, we have to eat lunch. Why not eat it in the railroad car that's there? Rotarians go all out to impress. The field trips are very engaging. The library, we are used to going and sitting and checking out books at the front desk, and that's the most we see of the library other than the stacks. Well, the librarian threw open the back doors. The kids went behind to find out how do they track books, how do they inventory books, how do they know your book's late, and things of that nature. So we got the inside. Jackie Cartwright as part of Alden Lane, through the whole nursery open to the kids. They got to see the inside workings of a nursery, to ordering plants, to bookkeeping, to illustration, the layout of the yard. And then let's go over and have lunch inside and talk about anything about plants, including the careers you can go in the field. And then the fire department, for example, all the kids got to work the hoses, got to sit in and experience the fire department and the different careers that are there. Every year we do a end of the year out of the valley program. The year before last, we took the kids to the California Academy of Science. They absolutely loved that field trip. It was surprising to find out a number of the kids thought San Francisco was an island. Why? Because you had bridges you had to go over. Other kids have never been to San Francisco. And so this year, what we did is we went, our out-of-town trip was to San Francisco again, but we went to the Exploratorium. And that was the first time they had seen the Exploratorium. Yep. First time they had seen the Exploratorium. And as part of every field trip we do, we end up having the kids go and try to do things of interacting. And here at the Exploratorium, it was wide open. They had so many different things for the kids to try, and they went ahead and tried. And then the other one is using the equipment there for experimentation on sound and whatever else. And I just love the picture at the bottom, because this is the water fountain. And it's the water fountain that one of the students found quite interesting, took his picture. I said, just wait till you're in the 12th grade, and this is going to be in the yearbook of what you were doing there. Every field trip has lunch, and we hit San Francisco on an absolutely spectacular day. So where Rotarians provide lunch, then the kids had an opportunity to lay around on the lawn during that period of time and just interact about the joy of being there. San Francisco provided us an opportunity to end up lighting the spark. And that is our goal as part of the program, light a spark. And for the people involved in the READY program, with special people, especially Lori Dotson, who has been with us since the beginning, we think we've done that. We think we've done that. So in summary, thanks to Rotarians, the school staff, and Interact students, READY continues to be an innovative education program that is having an effect on students. READY can be replicated by any Rotary Club anywhere, because the educational needs are worldwide. The cost of implementation are low as implementing it, and the skills and the talent exist in all Rotary clubs like the ones I said, of the more than 1,300 that are available. READY allows Rotarians the opportunity to live the Rotary motto. And what is the Rotary motto? It is to serve. And that's what this program allows us an opportunity to do and be a benefit to not only the community, but also a tremendous benefit to the kids in the READY program. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Perry? Dr. Perry? Dr. P?
Dr. P.
Mrs. Runyon.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I think that it's important that people know that this is actually the hidden secret. This is a tremendous amount of fun. I do this every week on a Monday because it's the best part of my week, every week. Right? The work that we do here is important and necessary work, but it's nothing like the fulfillment that you get when you sit down one-on-one and work with a kid. And if you're not a Rotarian but you want to help, all you need to do is contact one of us, and we'll find that place for you, and you can participate and help a child that really needs help.
Mr. Ogie?
I don't understand why you guys aren't doing more. I am blown away. I appreciate that. I think the number one thing takeaway that I can see kids is all the field trip the knowledge that some kids are getting on a field trip is tremendous. It's always going to be with them. And like you said, some kids have never been to San Francisco. There's an organization in Oakland that brings kids out to the valley because they've never seen a cow.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are very important. It broadens the scope. It gets kids to realize there's a lot in this world that I can do, and it sparks their mind. I just, you guys are a school unto yourselves. I think this is great. I appreciate it. Can't thank you enough. And I'm sure the kids in the future will be coming back to you and going, this is why I'm a microbiologist. This is why I'm a physicist. This is why I'm a fireman. I think this is the greatest thing in the world. Thank you very, very much.
There's one thing I wanted to raise, because we had to change one of our strategies, and it's the point that sort of talks to the issue that you raised, and that is due to the issue of liability, because we transported the students in our own cars to the different events. Due to the issue of liability, what we had to do is change our strategy, and that was drop field trips and do the enriching activities at the school site for this coming year. Now, I don't know how you do it, but the issue of transportation is something that under your coverage, because you have your buses and your insurance for covering student activities, is there a way for the school district to end up providing the transportation? We do all the planning and all the rest of it, but do the transportation to get the kids to the sites for the field trips.
Now, my understanding is that this is under the auspices of the school, right?
It's yes, we're working collaboratively with the school.
I think we have a form out there that says you can insure your car. You go to your insurance agent, insure your car and the liability for transportation. This is typical field trip that we have as a school district, and I think that would cover that.
Well, I think we would need to read policy very carefully and consult with our insurance folks to see if we could make it work.
Maybe what we could do is ask staff.
We don't have any. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any buses.
No, we don't have buses.
Yeah,
so
so most of our transportation is done by parent volunteers, but we can definitely look. We'll work with you and see what
we could
what
see
our
if
liability would cover.
Rotary volunteers would fall under some similar umbrella.
The other option too is even just today, the Livermore Wine Growers and the Wente Foundation, they're looking for causes to support. And one of the things that from the Rotarian Foundation, they had asked us about causes to support. And so I think transportation for students who maybe don't have that for special events and trips and things was one of those things. So we could, there's a couple avenues that we'll pursue. We'll start with policy.
Okay.
We'll look and see if volunteers, as I do know that we usually have a staff member who attends with you on some of those. I mean, I went on one trip and I had a ball of liability and I drove some students to one of them. So we'll look into the policy and the restrictions on that. And then we can also pursue, do have a few school vans that sometimes we use. And so if the right person is driving that has insurance, then possibly we can get more kids into that.
Yeah.
So we would not want that to be a roadblock for you.
No.
So I'm glad that we know.
Well, for this coming year, see, we changed our strategy based just on that.
Well,
because
I hope you can change your strategy mid-year.
Because the opportunity to go and see people in the workplace is so critical to the program. And our fallback position is then bring some of the outside people to the school and do things at the school, but that's still not the same richness.
About how many students do you have involved?
We'll end up with maybe 25 or more this year.
I'm just trying to think how many buses or cars or vans or whatever. Okay. So have we passed the ball to Ms. Kinder or Mrs. Bowers?
Between Mrs. Alva, Mrs. Kinder, and I will get some answers, Dr. Perry. And if that is all for the questions, we do have one special recognition. And we did not put this at the beginning with the recognitions because we knew that you were going to give us a full-fledged report, and we wanted to do justice to that. So on behalf of the Livermore School District, the Junction Avenue students, and our school board, we'd like to present you with this honorary recognition to the Ready Group, Rotarians Enriching and Directing Youth. And we cannot thank you enough for all that you've done. If you would accept this on the behalf of the Rotary.
Like the purple.
So we're going to ask Dr. Perry's wife, Elaine, who is also a major part of this contribution to our students. We have a little recognition for her as well.
Do it, fun. Oh, finally, Mrs. Bowers. The next discussion item is the Livermore Valley Charter School Oversight Update.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll ask Mr. Chris Van Schack, our Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services, to present some information about his oversight and the status of the Livermore Valley Charter School.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowers. Good evening, Board. This is the first of many reports that I will be giving about the Livermore Valley Charter School. As you recall, about 10 months ago, the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District Board approved the renewal petition of the Livermore Valley Charter School. We began in our oversight responsibilities this last summer, July 1st. As I mentioned in an earlier report, I would be providing updates every 2 months, with more comprehensive reports coming at the middle of the year and then at the end of the year. So this is the first of those short reports every 2 months. As you know, the Livermore Valley Charter School students began classes in their new facility over behind Costco. I guess that's the most frequently referred to location. There were some concerns early on about traffic. I think they recognized those last year when they began. The last 2 weeks of last school year, they started in their new facility, and so they recognized some concerns with traffic. The roads around there were not created to manage 1,000 cars at the same time, and so this year they began a new staggered schedule implementation in which they had different students dropped off at different times. So they are in their new facility going full speed. They have filled it completely. All of the classrooms are currently being used. The teachers that I had a chance to speak to were very excited about some of the new systems that were in place in their school. There is, however, a need for space for physical education activities. They've managed so far using some of the playground areas that are there, but it wasn't created originally to be a school, and so it doesn't have the facilities available for having the students out doing PE classes as of yet. Their enrollment, difficult to tell on this slide, but their enrollment, they are fully enrolled now. They have class sizes of 24 and 31 at the primary and then the middle school grades. You can see they're fully staffed. Their enrollment is similar to last year. They did add a transitional kindergarten class this year, so they have just those 24 more students. And according to the administrative staff, they are at capacity, and they do not plan to get any larger than this current size. In terms of finance, they did submit their unaudited actuals that I had a chance to look at, as did Susan Kinder. And we did have some concerns. Ms. Kinder voiced about differences between end-of-year balances and beginning balances that we need to pursue with their administrative staff. We did notice expenditure level about 9% over budget, which is a significant difference. Again, that would create problems down the road if that were to continue. So we did have a number of questions that we need to follow up about that discrepancy as well as capital expenditures. One of the challenges that we have is the organization. So we have oversight over the K-8 school. There's also the corporation that manages not just the K-8 school, also the high school, which we do not have oversight responsibilities at this time. And they have two schools in schools known as Acacia, which is out in the Central Valley. And so separating out for us, it's been a challenge separating out what's going on with their K-8 school, what's going on with their high school, what's going on in other corporate manners. So we've asked them to be a little bit more specific in separating out those financials. So we're working through that ourselves and trying to get to the bottom of that. So Mrs. Kinder did have some questions that I forwarded to their CBO, their Chief Executive Officer, Bill Batchelor, and he's going to follow up with us on those questions. But again, as the board pointed out when we approved, finance is an area of concern. Their ability to sustain the program over a long period of time. They did take on a significant amount of debt that the board had some concerns about. How are they going to pay that back? How are they going to manage their day-to-day operations? And so there are some follow-up questions that we have. There are some program highlights that when I was over at the school, they wanted to mention. They began the transitional kindergarten class this year, as I mentioned. At the middle school level, they have implemented a 4-day-a-week advisory study hall class that they are using to better connect with students. They have an early release day on Wednesdays, which is similar to the program that we have in our school district, in which they give teachers time to collaborate. Specifically, they're discussing Common Core. They've discussed the fact that they thought that might be a one-year program. They have developed a mentoring program for their new employees, and they've taken on InfoSnap, which they will be implementing mid-year, which is their attempt to do their registration process online, which is something, again, that we've done in this district for a couple of years. Some areas of concerns. Some of those were concerns that were identified through my school visits and self-identified by parents and staff. They've taken on a new facility that has some challenges, and they've had to modify the way that they move students between classes. There are some safety concerns that they had about the fencing, the perimeter fencing, and so they've had to develop and revise procedures, and so that's sort of an ongoing process. They're transitioning currently from School Loop to Power School, and parents are needing some support in making that transition. It's not completely seamless, and so they're finding some challenges there. They, as excited as they are about the new technology in their classrooms, they also are finding the need to train staff in how to use those pieces of technology in improving instruction. As we know, with students, they often take our plans for how we want them to travel, and they find their own. And so they've got some landscaping at school, and they try to direct students in a certain manner, and the students are choosing their own way to travel. And if you've been out to that facility, that's at different levels, and there's lots of steps, and again, so there's some safety concerns about directions that students are choosing to take to and from class, and so their staff is finding the need to address those. As I mentioned before, the morning drop-off and the afternoon pickup have proved to be a challenge. I think they're working through that. A lot of parents are choosing to park down the street and walk their students to school. That's how they're managing it, and they have a fairly elaborate system in place to ensure student safety both in the morning and the afternoon. And like many schools, they're also struggling with some of the transitions that are taking place from the way we've taught to the Common Core standards, and so they're working through that as well. Next step, and I point these out, these are mostly next steps for me, not so much for the school. I'll continue with visits to the school site every 2 weeks, and each time I have a little bit of a different focus and getting into classrooms, different grade levels, looking at safety issues that I've identified over at a site, responding to some parent concerns. We will ask for some very specific answers to our budget questions to ensure that they maintain some fiscal responsibility and fiscal solvency. I will be reviewing their student achievement plan, which they were required to produce at the beginning of the school year. I will also be reviewing their instructional materials. They have a very specific plan in their charter application about the process that they will create or that they will generate instructional materials, and so I'll be reviewing that with their principal. And I will also be taking a look at their special education program and ensuring that they're compliant with what they've pointed out in their charter that they would accomplish. And so those will be the next steps, and those will be the items that will be on the next report that I provide to the board in a couple of months. So any questions you might have or an additional direction that you'd like to provide for me in terms of oversight, I would be happy to answer those questions or hear your concerns.
Are there any questions from the board? Okay. Mrs. Runyon?
Yes, I have some concerns, and I guess in future reports, what I'd really like to see are things tied to our oversight responsibilities. I want to see we have oversight responsibility in this area, and here are the facts to date on that area. And I have to say that I was extremely disappointed as I reviewed the financials that they don't seem to be anywhere close to the compliance with the reporting standards for a school district in the state of California. And I'm hoping that that's just a transitional period, maybe some education about what's required and that we don't actually have a problem with that. But there's no way to tell with the numbers that we were given. And I think that that's key. And then, you know, going forward, charter schools are going to be evaluated on the performance of low-income and EL kids. So I want to know how many enrolled low-income and EL kids there are, what their performance was in the prior year, what metrics they're tracking for the current year, you know, those kind of things. So I want to see each slide should be, we have oversight responsibility in this area, and here are the facts about that area. You know, I think their traffic problems are their traffic problems. That's really not an oversight responsibility. And so I don't want to spend time on those kind of issues. That's just me personally. I just want to see the facts on the mandated areas.
Mr. Rogan, you have a question?
I agree with Mrs. Runyon. I had thought about it that way, but yeah, it spelled out what we have to oversight. And I guess if that's what we're oversighting, I guess we should see the facts and figures on that every time or quarterly or biannually. We're doing our job. That would be the only way for this board to judge we are job. Back.
At one point, I had heard when I was in Sacramento that there was legislation which was going to requires probably too strong a word, that charter schools keep their books with the same structure as traditional public schools. I don't know if that ever came to pass, but well, I mean, they keep the same account code and all, and the structure.
Right, and we
So if
required
that-
it as a condition of.
Yes, we brought that ahead, and so what we want to see is their numbers in our form so that we can do adequate oversight. Some of us have invested a lot of years in understanding the state forms, and you know, unless we have another 6-hour workshop on how to investigate, you know, to oversee what they're doing. And I haven't seen the unaudited actuals. Did we get them and you got them, or?
Well, that's what I just wanted to comment on. So we just received their unaudited actuals yesterday because they had
Okay.
until the 15th. So, and they are in the format. They are not in SACS software, but they are in a alternative form that charters are allowed to use, and they do follow the same account code structure. And I'll mention that I think what you've been looking at, Mrs. Runyon, is the on their adopted budget. If you look at their estimated actuals, yeah, when you look at their beginning balance, it's all messed up down there. But their unaudited actuals are much better. So I was happy to see that, but I still had quite a few concerns, and so those are the questions that we have, but obviously we just got them yesterday, so
But I think the point still remains that a condition of oversight for us becoming the oversight agency is that they were going to use our accounting. We weren't going to learn a new accounting system. We weren't going to.
But it's not a new accounting system. It's the
Well,
same
but
format.
they're not using the state.
It's just a simplistic format because they don't have all the resource codes that we have. They don't have a lot of the things that we have.
But they can put it into our accounting system, not.
Can we just get a copy of their unaudited actuals and see what it looks like?
I think that what we want to do is we want to give you the whole analysis that we've done.
Yes, and the questions that
you don't have to
you've-
do it yourself.
that you have.
Again, I mean, you can review that.
And my understanding is that they're a public agency, so their accounts are open to the public. So it's not like we're asking for private information.
Not at all.
And the Tri-Valley Learning Corporation oversees 4 schools. So it's all open to the public. I mean, just because we don't have direct oversight of the Acacia School or the high school doesn't mean that we don't get to see their books. So
one of the
Owe it
things
to us.
it's one of the things I wanted to share because this is new. Oversight is a new task for us as well. And what we are doing is there is a workshop on professional development that's sponsored by charter organizations, and also there's one that's by districts that oversee charters, whether they're independent or dependent. And so Mr. Van Schack and Mrs. Kinder will be attending the workshop. And there are, we've now requested, there's a template that has been designed to help with the oversight, and we can provide that to the board once it's customized with our MOU. So essentially what it'll be is we'll have a layout that will actually say in August of this year, you know, of any given year, we would expect this, and then in September, we would expect by the 15th, and on actual. So it's going to lay out a large timeline, similar to what we already have in our system. Some of the things are different, but that way then Mr. Van Schack will share that with them, so there's no surprises, no blind sides. It's very well laid out. This is what's expected. This is when we'll ask for it. This is when we'll report on it. And so we're still a little bit in the transition stage here of knowing we had to digest our own MOU, what additional things we maybe agreed that we wanted. One of the key differences in our MOU as opposed to some is ours says that we, some say that they will provide, and ours says we must request. So for instance, when they first moved into their new facility, we had to request and then they had to provide, but we had to request copies of all of their permitting. That wasn't an automatic because it's not our property. So the city, they were exchanging with the city, but we requested and then they provide the permitting. As in the case of, it's a statutory requirement that they provide the unaudited actuals by the date. But again, they were used to doing that with the state, and so now they're reporting it to us the same way that we had to report to the county. So I guess I would just ask I appreciate the input because it helps us understand what you're expecting, and just ask for a little bit of patience as we adjust to the role, because I believe we're set up to the point now where you meet so regularly that, I mean, they're having a special board meeting, I think tomorrow night. They held a special board meeting because of one request that we had. So I think they're learning too, because our level of oversight is much, the proximity is closer. And they're wanting to give us what it is that we ask. Hopefully that helps. And so we'll share the template with you and the outline, and it'll also be shared with the charter school folks so that they know what's coming and their board knows.
So what we've asked for is the template and the outline
And the unaudited
unaudited actuals
with the
and Susan's
analysis.
questions or analysis, whatever it is you've recreated.
Yeah, because, you know, when I look at what we were given for this meeting, in capital outlay, they have nothing, right? There's not a dollar spent on capital outlay. Now, we know that they got those buildings, and we know that they've been doing improvements on the buildings. So where's the capital outlay, and how much was it? It's just preposterous to say that there's been no site improvement, no building improvement, no expenditures on their library, no equipment replacement, no depreciation. All these line items are empty, zero. It's just, it's beyond credulity. So
I think Mr. Rogi's got his mouth open to say something.
And I'm sure you have sent it to us, but we can get the MOU also copied back to us.
Or we can send it to you. It's just the final MOU, and I think it had one amendment that was agreed upon and signed.
And what you you can find it as well as you can find it. Thank you. Are there any comments or concerns from the audience? Okay. If there's no more concern about the charter school, we'll move on to discussion action items. The first order is approval of the merger of Del Val and Phoenix Continuation High Schools. Mrs. Bowers.
Thank you, Madam President. I will ask Assistant Superintendent Cindy Alba to present information regarding a proposed merger of Del Val and Phoenix High Schools. This is for your consideration and approval, hopefully.
Okay. Once again, good evening, President White, trustees, Superintendent Bowers. This evening, I'll be asking in this action item for the board's approval for a merger of Del Val and Phoenix Continuation High Schools. So Del Val and Phoenix are currently two continuation high schools that are located at the same location on 5th Street. They originally, and President White, you probably know the history better than me, but so they were originally two separate schools, and Phoenix was a school that was really geared toward targeting programs for 9th and 10th grade students, where the Del Val program was more for 11th and 12th grade. And Phoenix School also was considered a small necessary school, and they had a special funding source that came to that school. Over time, as the schools kind of morphed, but more importantly what happened was they really consolidated to operate out of one location. And so for a while they were operating as Phoenix and Del Val, still targeting the different age groups in the 5th Street school site. But eventually it just made more sense as the programs took the best parts of both of them and morphed into one program where students are sitting in the same, students who are enrolled in Phoenix are sitting in the same classrooms as they are with students that are in Del Val. And in 2012, Phoenix and Del Val had been WASC accredited, but in 2012, both schools were WASC accredited as continuation high school. So essentially operating the same kind of program at both of those, with both of the programs in the same school. We remained and maintained the two separate sites and two separate identification codes with the California Department of Education because we still were entitled to and were receiving a small grant for the small necessary school. But now with the local control funding formula and the flexibility, we no longer need to maintain a separate program in order to receive the funding. And having the two separate schools really has, actually the staff has been great, and even I think it's affected Susan's department and the IT with maintaining two separate sets of data on two schools with kids sitting in the same classroom and so forth. So now it really will streamline processes. It'll make it more effective and efficient for teachers when they're looking at data in their classrooms. They're not looking at students in Phoenix and students in Del Val. So what we're proposing tonight is that we merge the two schools keep the Del Val name, and so they can operate as one school. And the process for doing this is just receiving the approval of the board, and then we just go into the website for the California Department of Education, and Mr. Warner takes care of that, and we'll put it in as a merging of the schools, and voila.
Wow.
Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Rogie?
No, I was going to make the motion, but.
Oh, well, okay. I do have a question after watching the legislators start playing around with the funding. How hard would it be to split the schools back out if that should happen? I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but I'm watching this game being played in Sacramento. So.
There is something that says you can reopen within 365 days. You could reopen the other school. So I mean.
I don't expect it this year, but somewhere along the way.
So originally we looked into would we just put it on hold and keep that CDS code, and so you could actually hold it in a way for 365 days. It could be in a holding pattern before you would lose it. But if there were some specialized funding for a specialized small school, we would just reapply for the grant funding and we would be positioned very well to get it, and then we would probably at that point relocate it and create a special school, because we'll have some sites, some empty sites. And so I think at that point, it might behoove us to create a special secondary school if there was funding like that. But at this time, there really isn't any advantage.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's an advantage to the community, so I'm going to go ahead and move that we approve the merger.
Second that.
Are there any comments from the community?
Oh.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Looking at this and looking at Phoenix High School, where is it that it has ever been advertised that Phoenix High School had one of the highest scores in the county as far as the API scores?
I don't know about that. How high was the score? Do you know?
It was highest in
You mean
all-
for
continuation
continuation schools?
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
I do know that both Phoenix and Del Valle and even Vineyard went up in their scores, but I also know that generally those schools, the APIs, we also take them with a grain of salt for alternative schools. They actually operate normally under the ASAM model, which is Alternative School Accountability Measures, and they look at different measures such as the credit completion and and the graduation rate. So there's an attendance, which are generally issues for continuation schools. So that's a more true measure of their success. And so but Del Valle and Phoenix have very similar scores, and so with that merge, it would just raise the bar.
Well, this is a whole area that I guess we're not aware of. Would you ask a staff member to write a couple of paragraphs about the ASAM and what our scores are and for Del Valle, Phoenix, or?
I think we usually get that.
With the single plan achievement, but we could put something in the single plan they'll explain.
Okay, but this is a new area that.
Oh, okay. You've probably just heard it and described different ways. I call it ASAM. I don't know what other people call it.
Okay. Are you ready for the question? It's been moved and seconded to approve the merger of Del Valle and Phoenix Continuation High School. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and it's approved by a unanimous vote. The next order is the consent items.
Madam President, I'd be happy to move the consent items A through F with the revised item B, the employment list.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent items A through F with the modification we heard about. Is there any comments from the audience? Questions or concerns from the board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion's approved to approve the consent items passes. There's no resolutions. The next item is board member reports and requests. Mrs. Runyon.
Yes. Last week I was able to participate in 2 webinars about the local control funding formula. I think a lot of us participated in the CSBA one, but I was only able to be on part of it, so I watched one the next day by Children Now, and I found that one to be very good. So I sent you all the link, and they actually had, in addition to the one that was last week, one that was archived from August that I also watched that was excellent. So if you haven't had a chance and you want to learn some more, I thought those were very good. I had a meeting with Mrs. White and the superintendent and a former employee who previously wrote a letter to the board with some concerns, and listened to that complaint, and then had a follow-on meeting with our school resource officers and our new school safety employee, the new outreach coordinator, Jorge or George, not quite sure there. My concerns were satisfied with those meetings, and I appreciate the time that the superintendent took out of her busy schedule to meet with us and address those. So I wanted to let my fellow board members know.
Mr. Rogi?
I went to the open house at Christensen because my daughter was going to Christensen, and so that's the only open house I really got to. I tried to make it over to Mendenhall, and unfortunately ran out of time.
Can't be two places at once.
Especially when they're so far across town, and
That's
I started to hit
extreme.
every track. I can tell you all the traffic lights and how long they were that night. But the open house at Christian Center went very well. So, and then also I attended the Aldemont Creek open house the week before. I was able to speak to it at the last meeting, and I want to say that the new principal has been very well received. They're raving about it, so I think that's a good thing for us. That's all I
Thank
have.
you. Mr. McLaughlin, do you have anything to talk about?
About 5 or 6 different schools, was overwhelmed by the amount of cars that were outside telling me there has to be a lot of people inside, and they're not all jeering us, but they're giving us go for it. And I think we should keep on going for it and don't give up any of it.
I was able to attend the ribbon cutting yesterday at the city's solar array. What do you call it? A solar farm array. It was on the formerly vacant bit of land behind the library. And our Green Academy Project Lead the Way students, again, shown. They had sort of a tabletop kind of a demonstration, and we're regaling the group. Then Mrs. Bowers also spoke. I did the back to school webinar with CSBA, and you know, you hear the same things over and over again, and finally everybody says it a little bit differently, and it makes it clearer sometimes. But one of the things that hit me this time was that when they talked about the parent involvement part of the local control accountability plan, which needs to be created with community and parent input, is that they used the words empowered and engaged, not just involved, but empowered. So we need to almost come up with an empowerment plan to find parents who will become engaged in the process. Sue Burr was part of the conversations now. Sue Burr is now on the State Board of Education. Before that, she was staff to the State Board of Education. And before that, she's just been many, many things, actually working in schools, and I think she has been CEO of several professional organizations. But one of the things that she mentioned about the accountability is that we all needed to memorize Ed Code 52060. I think that was the number she said, which includes the expectations for schools and what the new state law wants us to do. I attended a policy committee meeting, and as you know, we subscribe to CSBA's suggestions. We don't take all their suggestions, but we receive their suggestions about improvements that we can make in our policy. Some are required by new state law, and some are just, are you really sure you need to have these sorts of things in your policy, but it's not a state law. One of the things that they did ask that is required by a new state law, that there's been a change in law such that the policy needs to state that felons involved in bribery, embezzlement of public funds, extortion or perjury or conspiracy to commit any of the above is ineligible for public office. So we need to revise our policy about the eligibility that says we will not have any convicted felons.
Isn't that just, you have to be a registered voter, and you can't be a registered voter if you're a felon?
That's a fine point that was not addressed in this suggestion. Another board policy that concerned the board, so I got it to deal with, had to do with board committee meetings, and we have carefully avoided having board committees, because when the board establishes and appoints a committee, it's governed by the Brown Act. And the Brown Act committee has an overhead which is remarkable. You have to post the agenda, and then you have to write the minutes, and it has to be open to the public. And so we've carefully avoided having these because of the overhead usually. And the board has never really come up with a question that they want advice on themselves. So in our district, the superintendent usually appoints a committee, and when it's her committee, they advise her, and then she in turn advises the board. And so I've looked at our policy about board committees, and it includes most, if not all, of the suggestions from CSBA. So I don't think we need to make any changes in that. And I think that was enough to do. So I'm finished. Mrs. Bowers, do you have a report?
I do. I always find things that I can share. I would just like to comment, we will be starting eventually a 7-11 committee, which is a board committee, and that's a posted one. And so I think our first step in that direction is we will be having a special board meeting workshop next week where we're just talking about facilities in general, facility needs, and establishing, with the board's help and direction, kind of a framework for what are our core values when it comes to the types of ideal facilities for all of our students, regardless of where they go to school. So I'm happy to report that we had our first Parent Communication Information Council meeting of the year. It was in this room right here. It was very well attended. Trustee White attended as well, and we had the opportunity to meet our police chief, Michael Harris. He was introduced, and Mr. Vinoy introduced all the families to the online Safe Schools Alert program. We'll also be having a special meeting with all of our principals and our fundraising parent groups, either boosters, PTA, PTO, or PTSA, whatever group does that on behalf of our students. And they will be meeting with Mrs. Kinder, some of her staff, and we'll bringing in people from Peralta District, from the Alameda County, who will be helping us just to make sure that we establish strong guidelines and rules about how we handle funds that are raised by and for our students. Through the parent groups. We had very successful middle and high school back to school nights, as you mentioned, and Mrs. Robbins, Trustee White, and I, we were at East Avenue Middle School, and we had the pleasure of being there when they raised their California Distinguished School flag. So it's very exciting, and if you haven't gone by there, the flag is proudly waving. It's at half-mast this week due to the tragedy, but also in the front of their building, there's a beautiful insignia now that's permanently on their wall about being distinguished school. I attended the Altamont Creek PTA meeting and with our new principal, PJ Daly, and it was very exciting. It was packed. We probably had 55 parents there, and they were there to hear about Project Lead the Way, which is the STEM school project. And so just to remind you, Altamont Creek is one of 3 schools in the state and 44 in the nation that have been chosen to pilot the Project Lead the Way elementary program that will then feed into the East Avenue and Christensen program, and then eventually to the Livermore High Project Lead the Way program. I was also part of the press conference that the California Teachers Association sponsored for the Quality Education Investment Act at Maryland School, and we were featured on KRON News, Channel 4, and we'll be putting that on our website. And essentially, again, what they are just so impressed with is not only the work that has been done at Maryland with the QEIA funds, but how it's become a model for all QEIA schools, as well as many schools. In fact, many of the things that Maryland has tried have now become instrumental in other reforms throughout our district. They were the first school to have early conferences, and now that is something that all of our elementary schools have. And so it's really neat to have a model right here in our own district. I was at the Chevron Energy Solutions ribbon cutting ceremony for the newly installed solar power system. And once again, Mr. Michael Waltz was there with his students, and one of our former students, Layla Hassan, she spoke. She's now at UC Davis, she's starting this week, but she spoke about her experiences and how it transformed her life. Very similarly, the Academy transformed her life the way I believe that Dr. Manuel Perry is talking about how the exposure from the Rotary and Ready Group, when kids are exposed to things that maybe they didn't think were in their background, how it can really change their career plans and their long-term plans. This Thursday, I'll be speaking before the UC Regents on a similar topic about the partnerships between the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and their support of education, and how it's very important for the UC Regents to continue to fund projects that give us professional development that's high level, that support our teachers, as well as programs that provide instrumental education and opportunities and internships for students. So they limit you to 3 minutes, and that's it. So I'm working on my speech. You don't think I'll make it? They just cut the mic off, so it'll happen. And finally, I would like to publicly thank and commend our students, our staff, our administrators, our board, Livermore High School families, our student resource officers, and the Livermore Police Department. We had such cooperation and a calm response to our shelter-in-place situation that we experienced on Friday. And so thankfully, no one was in harm's way, and all staff and students ended up being safe. But it really was a true testament. Once it was over, we had a chance to assess how incredibly well everybody worked together, how all of the training and the drills really matter, because in the time of crisis, we had an absolutely seamless communication process and cooperation from every level. And I think that what I've heard now from talking to some of my colleagues who are superintendents in other districts, and also what we've heard from our own police department, that maybe we take that for granted sometimes, because in every community that does not happen. Sometimes superintendents, I can't even imagine this, find out that there are issues of danger possibly on their campus. They find out from the news. And so that was not the case here. We were so well prepared, and luckily it all turned out great. But I just want to make sure that everyone knows how fortunate we are to be in a community like Livermore, where everybody rallies around and takes care of their business and takes care of our students. So with that, I will end, and have a good night.